Louis Zamperini was born in 1917, and as a boy, he was restless, angry, and always in trouble. But running changed him. On a track, all that chaos turned into speed. He became known for his brutal finishing kick, the kind of final sprint that made crowds rise to their feet. By 19, he had earned a place on the United States Olympic team. At the 1936 Olympics, Louis did not win a medal, but he proved he belonged among the best runners in the world. Then World War II came. Louis joined the Army Air Forces and became a bombardier on a B-24 Liberator, one of the heavy bombers used across the Pacific. The Pacific War was vast, violent, and unforgiving. Planes flew over endless water, where a single mechanical failure could turn a mission into a death sentence. On May 27, 1943, Louis and his crew were sent out on a search and rescue mission. Their plane was called the Green Hornet. It was not in good shape. As the bomber flew over the Pacific, mechanical trouble became disaster. The aircraft dropped lower and lower until the crew had almost no time left. Then the Green Hornet slammed into the ocean. The impact tore the plane apart. Most of the crew were killed. Louis survived, but only barely. He fought his way out of the wreckage and surfaced into open water. Around him, there was debris, oil, waves, and silence. Only 3 men made it onto the life rafts: Louis Zamperini, pilot Russell Allen Phillips, and tail gunner Francis McNamara. They were alive, but they were alone in the middle of the Pacific. At first, they still had hope. They believed planes might come searching. They believed a ship might appear. They believed survival was a matter of holding on for a few days. But the days kept passing. Their supplies were almost nothing. Food was scarce. Fresh water was even worse. The sun burned them during the day, and the cold crept in at night. They fought off sharks that rammed the raft and circled close enough to touch. They learned to catch rainwater when storms came. They tried to catch fish. Every day their bodies grew weaker. The ocean became a prison with no walls. Sometimes they saw planes in the distance and wondered if rescue had finally come. But even the sky became dangerous. At one point, a Japanese aircraft spotted them and fired on the raft, leaving them with even less protection than before. Still, they stayed alive. Louis and Phillips tried to keep their minds working. They talked about food. They remembered meals in detail. They planned imaginary recipes. They forced themselves to think, because the moment the mind surrendered, the body could follow. But Francis McNamara was fading. After weeks of hunger, thirst, and fear, his strength was gone. On the 33rd day at sea, McNamara died. Louis and Phillips were now the only 2 left. 2 men on a tiny raft. 2 shadows under the Pacific sun. And still, no rescue. By the time they reached the 47th day, they were barely recognizable. Their bodies had been stripped down by starvation. Then they saw land. After 47 days, land should have meant salvation. It should have meant food, water, doctors, and home. But Louis Zamperini's story did not turn that way. He and Phillips had drifted into Japanese-controlled territory near the Marshall Islands. They were found by Japanese forces and taken prisoner. The ocean had not killed them. But now they had entered a new kind of survival. Louis Zamperini's life is not just a survival story because he lived through 47 days at sea. It is a survival story because every time the world seemed to take everything from him, something inside him refused to break. But the question is, after everything he survived in the ocean, how did he survive what came next? That is where the next part of his story begins.